and a Brit. It's not great, but it's entertaining.
That's right.
I'm Lynn Hartram, along with my co-host, Caitlin Greer.
What's up, bitches?
And Lee Hazel.
What's up, witches?
Aw.
And Matt.
And Matt. And today, yes, we have a special guest with us today, Matt Moniz. How are you?
Hello, children.
That didn't sound sinister enough.
Right? He has the greatest storytelling voice. Like honestly, Matt, your voice is just the most soothing. I could listen to it for a really long time, just so you know. So I'm glad that you're talking today.
Oh, I'm glad to be talking. Otherwise, I would not be here,
Right.
if you know what I mean.
Right,
Yeah.
because nobody wants to listen to us, so we need somebody else to help us out.
Look, we've got 11 minutes before people fucking switch off. Come
Yes,
on.
very true. It's very true. So get it done fast. Get in, get out, go home. That's how it is.
You're talking about his love life. That's another thing. So.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
all of our love life.
So today we're going to talk about Lizzie Borden, which is an amazing topic. I love it too. I think it's fantastic. We haven't really done any sort of, I definitely want to talk about Lizzie herself, but we haven't really done anything paranormal yet.
Right.
So, Matt is well versed in the Lizzie Borden house. And what is the other house called, Matt? I can't remember.
The other house is called Maplecroft.
Maplecroft, yes.
Personally named the house Maplecroft. As you know, in rich societies, people try and name their houses, especially
yes.
like out in Newport and Rhode Island. Fall River isn't as, shall we say, as chic as Newport, but, you know, she tried to make herself a bit more airy, by naming it Maplecroft.
Right. Makes it sound like an estate of some sort.
Right.
Correct.
Or a mental institution.
Yes, it does.
It does
Well,
kind of.
It does.
The thing is to jump in here. Sorry, I jump in like this every week, Matt. It gets on everyone's fucking button. But
What?
it's in the town of Fall River, and I went to the Lizzie Borden because Matt's got keys, but I went with Carol, David Chase, and Randall. We didn't get in the house, but they took me to the town. So Matt has always told me about the town Fall River, which is apparently like the 4th worst town in America to live in.
Sorry, Fall River.
No, I haven't offended anyone yet. I want to make that
You just called it the
I've
4th
got
worst
plenty of
town in
time.
America.
No, there's actual documentation for this.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I'm not
Well, then
making it
fuck
up.
you,
I'm not
Fall
making it up.
River.
Yeah.
Step
So
up your game.
the thing is, as soon as I set foot in the town, it elevated to the 3rd worst town in America
Oh.
instantly. Yeah. So,
Very humble.
so the town Fall River sounds a beautiful name. It's
Yes.
Fall River. It's this gorgeous town name. But when I walked around this town, fucking hell! I mean, there was bullet holes in the wall. There was all the houses were boarded up. Randall turned the corner in the car, and there was a fucking house on fire in the distance. And the first thing he said was, "Ah, fucking hell, not again." It was the same. It was a meth house. It was a meth
Aw.
house. So
Yeah.
they got wind that the police were coming, and they just fucking lit the place up. But
As you do.
it's like it was like the end of the world up there. It was like people shuffling across the street with little shopping trolleys, and it was sad to watch it. But in the middle of the place is this huge cathedral, gorgeous cathedral. So
St. Anne's.
yeah.
Cool.
I think
So,
is that kind of a New England thing? I've never noticed that until I moved here.
What?
That like all these little towns have these giant, beautiful churches and like kind of
Oh,
in the
it's
center
gorgeous.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Most beautiful. Yeah, it's gorgeous. But
Well-
all around it, you've got all this trouble.
I do not frequent them, but they're lovely.
Well, like New England was founded by people who wanted religious freedom, right?
True.
So like they came here and what did? They popped up a bunch
Puritans.
of churches. Yeah.
Puritans.
I mean,
Which
yeah.
yes, is interesting. They came here and wanted religious freedom, and yet they persecuted these women and called them witches.
Next. That's a different topic. That's a different
Yeah.
topic.
Not happy with them.
Yeah.
Still holding a grudge.
I could feel the rant coming. To cut it off at the pass. So I guess for people who don't know, Matt, if you could tell us a little bit of history about Lizzie Borden and all that crap. I'm pretty sure everyone knows the story,
I've
but
heard of her, but they may not know the particulars
maybe
of the
like
story.
fill us in on a little
Well,
bit.
I was gonna say, let's start off with the rhyme that everybody knows.
Right.
Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Now, the real story is it's 11 and 17, but those don't rhyme. So,
Right.
but but the murders occurred August 2nd, 1888, in Fall River, Massachusetts. The murders happened on one of the hottest days of the year, and what most people don't realize is those weren't the only deaths that happened on that property
Really?
in actual murders. Yes, but we can get into that later. What wound up happening is Lizzie Borden was arrested and accused of this double homicide, and she was tried and found not guilty. She was acquitted.
Right.
Everybody assumes that she was found guilty, but the true story is that she was actually found innocent.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's unsolved.
it is still an unsolved mystery.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And well, the only people know it stone dead. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. So it's just a never-ending mystery for the
Now,
rest.
I had heard that, and I don't know if this is true, so Matt, maybe you can correct me if it's wrong, that there's a theory that part of the reason she was acquitted was because she was a woman and they didn't feel she'd be capable of such a violent crime.
Correct. But
Fine.
what the issue is there were the coroner who did the autopsies actually in the home, which is not uncommon back then. That's nothing new. True story. Back then, things were different.
Yeah. I mean, did
Okay,
they
so,
slice them right open in the home, or is this an autopsy like
Well,
we
the
think of
coroner-
autopsy?
Yeah, no. Well, they were actually autopsied in what is essentially the dining room
Oh,
of the home.
appetizing.
I'd love to be
Yeah,
there
well-
at the Thanksgiving after that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, yeah. Yeah.
But that's
quick question.
what.
Sorry.
Sure.
So just quick question. Who was killed first, mum or dad?
Okay, now this is a critical point in the whole story. The mother was killed first, then the father was killed second. Now, the coroner reported that basically Mrs. Borden was whacked in the back of the head, or at least they assumed it was with an axe or a hatchet, a blunt object of some form.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
11 times, 11 shallow blows she received to the base of her neck, shoulders, and skull. The doctor surmised that this was a person, because of the depth of the blows, was a person of weaker stature. In other words, intimating that it could possibly be a woman.
Right.
Mr. Borden had several heavy blows, one of them completely cleaving off one of his eye sockets, I believe his left eye socket, where his eye was actually hanging out of his face and on the side of his cheek. The crime scene photos are actually available online. You can actually see them. And the doctor surmised, because of the depth of the blows, it was somebody of severe upper body strength, i.e., a man.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So what was
See,
the time?
people were more concerned with Mr. Borden because he was the one with the money.
Right.
So that's what the prosecution, was all about. He was this and that, and the defense tried to show that the doctor's saying it had to be somebody that was a man, because obviously he was overcome by somebody with, superior strength. And how could little Lizzie, and they kept calling her Little Lizzie, be somebody that can overpower such a towering individual? And most people don't realize if you're falling asleep on the couch and you
Right.
think,
Not
but
so towering at that point.
But
yeah,
what was the time difference between killing the mum and killing the dad, Matt?
okay. The mother that they estimated was killed in the morning, and the father was killed later in the afternoon, around a little after lunchtime.
Oh, I didn't
Now,
realize
the
that.
reason why this is important is because what happened after the trial. Okay. And this is also connected to what happened before the murders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before the murders, Lizzie's biological uncle, which was her biological mother's brother. Now, Abby Borden was not Lizzie's biological mother. It was a stepmother. Okay. Her biological mother died in childbirth or complications from childbirth after. And Mr. Borden later on married her. And Lizzie and her stepmother did not get along. Well, not greatly, but why this is important is because Lizzie's biological uncle came to the house the night before the murders. And one of the things that he was there for is Mr. Borden was telling him, basically, I'm evicting you from your family farm in Swansea. And this was, well, he was known for being a tyrant. And, if he found out that you got a raise at work because he owned tons of property in Fall River, he was basically a slumlord. He found if you got a raise at work, he raised your rent type of thing, so he was a real penny pinching miser type of thing. As a matter of fact, their last meals was, I think it was 14-day-old mutton soup.
That's not soup.
Yeah.
That's what I had.
Now, remember,
That's
this
what
is
I had for
before
breakfast.
Believe it or not, the bed and breakfast, which is what it is now, actually does do their original breakfast and an actual mutton thing on special occasions. It's not actually 14 days old, but you get the point. Now, Mr. Borden told Lizzie's uncle that, I'm going to be selling the family farm. And you got to find someplace else to go. And, I'm going to give the money to my new wife's family because I want to do this and that, what have you. Well, Lizzie's uncle made it a point to go all around Fall River to be seen and noticed. And, he even remembered the trolley driver's name and the number on his cap. And he sat and talked with various priests and whatever. He made it known to be, seen around town and, what are you doing? Now, supposedly, he had his farmhand with him. Nobody knows what happened with the farmhand. He disappeared. Now, what's interesting is supposedly, from what I'm able to piece together, Lizzie got mad at her stepmother because of this. Obviously, she loves her uncle, and and she's like, "You interrupt, you're an interloper, whatever." Now, this is just speculation and theory. She got mad at her, whacked her, and then this is my own theory, and it's bolstered by several other individuals, that her uncle found out that when he came back to collect this stuff, that, oh my God, what did you do? This is a problem. Then Mr. Borden comes in and is like, okay, in for a penny, in for a pound, and he winds up whacking the old man.
Better get the Hoover out.
And what wound up happening is it's said that he was actually accosted outside. That's one of the theories, because if you look at the crime scene photo, with several heavy blows to the skull, to the point of even cleaving off part of the eye socket and everything.
Ugh.
They only found something like less than 15 to 20 drops of blood on the wall.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
there something severe like that. There
Right.
should be blood
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I would know.
Right. So,
Oh, I was going to say, I've cleaned
but the
up before.
droplets.
It's murder. It really is.
Well, what's interesting is the droplets that they have are in a semicircle arc type of thing. They start at one point and go to another. Now, what I noticed is the way that Mr. Borden is sleeping, the way his hips are set and the way his feet are set. To me, it looks like somebody had him over their shoulder, plopped him on the couch, and the body slumped over. As it slumped over, a few drops of blood go flinging. Because if you're whacking somebody that deep with the amount of blood on this guy's face, why isn't there blood everywhere? It should be on the ceiling, should be on the walls, should be on the door behind. So that would require somebody with some strength to be able to move it.
Yeah.
So now, what's interesting about this is Lizzie was arrested. She was put in a Taunton jail for women, and the trial happened in New Bedford, Massachusetts. It went on for several months, and then finally, when she was acquitted, the first thing she did, her first act, was to give her uncle the deed to the farm.
Interesting.
Sneaky little Lizzie. We're on to you.
I've been to her grave, Matt.
Yes.
Yeah, Randall took it. I think there's the family grave is there, but hers is a little set off. I think it just says Lizzie. I think it is from memory.
No, it says Lizbeth. She changed her name to Lizbeth of Maplecroft.
Yeah, but there's like a big stone thing that is the family one, and then hers is a few feet away. I think from memory.
Yeah,
I think.
If you're looking to be to the right of it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, go on, Lynn.
Oh, I was going to say, now, Lizzie had a sister, right, Matt?
Yes.
Now, was Lizzie the younger sister?
Yes.
Okay. Because I've also heard another theory, I believe, that people have suggested that perhaps the two of them were in on the murder. Well,
her sister was in Fairhaven, Massachusetts at the time of the murder. She had already been out there with the, I believe it was the Burnell family. And they were going to head to Marion to do a fishing expedition. Now, Marion is the next town over from me.
Okay.
And she didn't find out until after she came back. Now, the person that was there at the time was Bridget Sullivan, who was the maid.
Yes. Oh, right. Yes.
Okay. Now, supposedly, Bridget was outside cleaning windows.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's interesting about this is it's 98 degrees in August, and are you going to have the windows closed in the house? Would you not? Yeah. Right. Okay. Now, as soon as all of this was done, Bridget wound up taking off for, as far as she could go back out then. I think it was like she wound up moving to Montana.
Wow.
She was an Irish immigrant, and they used to call her Maggie. Now, Maggie was a derogative term for Irish women immigrants that were basically indentured servants for all intents and purposes. Yeah. But she actually had written a letter that was sealed and whatever, and basically gave up her knowledge of what happened. And one of the things that is said to have been in this letter that is that, she knew that there was a conspiracy going on about it and that it was internal to the family. Now, like I said, I have not seen this actual letter. I'm just going from what various other people have wrote that have supposedly read it.
Right.
Interesting. So basically, she was saying that it was that someone within the family did this, or someone's.
Someone's more
Yes.
than one.
Yeah.
Plural.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Matt, quick question, mate. What
Slow
sort of
answer.
I learned a lot around your house, Matt. I'll tell you that. 10 days on your settee with you and Joe, mate. I learned more in those 10 days than 10 years of British education.
It's all about trust.
Let's not go there. The viewings might, nosedive a little bit. What we've got left, we want to keep them. But question is, the mum was killed first, right? You said in the morning. The dad was in the afternoon.
Stepmom.
The stepmom
Right.
in the morning. The dad was in the afternoon, right? So the dad was upstairs.
Why is that important? I'll tell you why this is important.
Because he didn't come down the whole time, did he? If he'd have come down, he would have seen the body.
No, the mom.
No,
Was
the body was upstairs. She was upstairs. He was found downstairs. Now, what's important as far as the timing goes, if he was killed first and then the stepmother, all of the money that Borden had would have gone to the stepmother's family.
Yeah. Oh, to
the
her
way
family.
the laws were. Yeah.
Oh.
Lizzie would have gotten nothing.
Oh.
This is why this
Plot
is
twist.
important. Yeah.
She's so smart.
Yeah.
Smart.
I don't think it had to do with smarts. I think it had more to do with luck and the way it turned out.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't think this was necessarily planned. I think this was a crime of passion that turned into a double homicide just because, okay, I killed her. He's coming in, whack.
Yeah.
And we can get into the other rumors about Lizzie and her father.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the other rumors about them?
No,
I'm
really. I feel like it's really juicy though,
It is.
so I need to know.
Oh, it is.
Was that the wrong term to use?
Matt doesn't do anything other than juicy.
Okay. Do you realize? Although this was not uncommon. Lizzie, her whole name was Elizabeth Andrew Borden.
What?
She had her father's middle name. Yeah.
Okay.
True fact. Right. But that was not uncommon back then. That was, so that's not too suspicious in a certain sense because this was, I guess, a practice that they did back in the 1800s and whatever. Okay. But there's been several people who have read their families' diaries, and there's supposedly talk that went from family members to family members about when Lizzie was talking about her father having, we'll call it inappropriate relations, complete with the doctor next door having to perform abortions.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Fuckernuts is back.
Dr. Fuckernuts.
Dr. Fuckernuts, sorry, man.
So her neighbor was Dr. Fuckernuts. That's incredible.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Okay.
Blimey, it's all go, isn't it?
I know, sorry.
It's just like, what?
It's like 8 episodes buildup of just bullshit. Sorry. Wow,
Sorry.
that's gross. He deserved to get an axe.
Well,
to
it
the
also
face. That is true.
gives a we'll say a motive.
Right, yeah.
And the famous picture, Matt, is the dad on the what do you call that thing? Chaise lounge thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still talking. So that when he was on that chaise lounge thing, that's actually downstairs then?
Yes.
Downstairs, correct.
Right. Okay.
The stepmother, I always found it interesting the position she was in because it almost looks like.
Oh, you're talking in the photograph?
Yeah.
You realize that photograph has been, that's not the actual way she was found.
Oh,
They
okay.
moved her.
That makes more sense
Yeah.
now because I was like, that's a really odd position.
So,
All right.
so is the house, because the house is a bed and breakfast now, Matt, isn't it? And it's called the Lizzie Borden house. So is there, you've done ghost
Lizzie
hunts?
Borden Bed and Breakfast and Museum.
Fancy.
Yeah, well, it is a museum because the house has been the house is restored to its original condition the way it was back in the 1800s. Like on that day.
Wow.
I mean, with a few modern amenities in it, that
Yeah.
the
Wi-Fi.
state requires, like
Mhm.
a particular type of refrigeration exit signs and,
Right.
yeah.
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 Is the axe still there, Matt?
Well, the axe is in the Historical Society, the one that was found a couple of blocks away on the some sort of garage roof.
Hmm.
Now,
Right.
they don't know if that was the actual murder weapon. It's just something that was found on a roof nearby
Right.
when they did searches. That is still inside the Historical Society of Fall River has that.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
was there any blood found on the axe? Like, was there anything to lead them to believe?
It was found weeks later.
Oh, okay. So it was
Right.
just a random axe that was found, and they thought, "Hey, this could match the murder weapon."
And then
Right.
that friggin' neighbor has been looking for that. That was looking for that axe forever. Like,
He looked everywhere for it. He looked in down the back of a settee for it. Where is it?
right? Like, I knew I left it on the top of the garage. I knew I put it there so I wouldn't forget where it was.
I have my own suspicion of what I think the murder weapon was,
Oh, do tell.
but and this also explains why you didn't find any blood on it.
Okay.
The house and where they were sitting and found all have fireplaces in them, and
Right.
there was a wood stove downstairs.
Mhm.
Now, from what I understand, because there are replicas of the skulls in the
Okay.
museum, actually in the house, that
Wow.
were made from the actual skulls. Yes, you could roughly fit an axe in it, but from what I saw, it looked more to me like a heavy-duty fire poker.
Oh.
Those big long handled
Yeah.
things with the pointed.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
it looked like
Ooh.
somebody. And you start swinging one of those at somebody's skull, yeah, you're going to cave it in.
Right. Oof.
And then you stick the end back into the wood stove fireplace. There goes all the rest of your
Right.
evidence of blood.
Yeah.
Let's try it.
Let's try it. Let's not.
Oh,
Matt,
sorry.
That's
Sorry.
why I asked for a lock on the RV at Matt's.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh.
It's got one
I
too
could
many
hear him
fire
scratching.
pokers floating around that house.
Yeah, actually, there were, because obviously that's not. No, I meant at the Borden house,
Really?
because that's how they
Right.
did things back then.
Right.
So what's your take on it, Matt? Who do you think done it?
Well, I think Lizzie whacked her stepmother. I think the uncle was involved with taking out the old man.
The dad.
Sounds
Yeah.
pretty
That makes
logical.
sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Especially since she gave him the money after she got out.
Right.
Yeah, gave him the farm. Yeah.
Or the farm.
Well,
excuse me,
you could consider it money. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. That's interesting. Wow.
And then Bridget Sullivan wound up with a little chunk of change, and that's
Oh.
when she went west. And her sister eventually moved to, I believe it was New Hampshire.
Wow. Well, I mean, I guess that I could see Bridget's maybe motivation for not saying anything if these what do you call it? The sexual abuse allegations were true. Bridget, I'm sure, knew of it being in the house, I would imagine.
Yes.
So,
Well,
there may have been no love lost, really.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, somebody also made speculation. I can't find any record of this to say whether it happened, but supposedly he went after her too in that manner.
Oh, good Lord.
He
Perv.
he was basically a sexual predator, is what they're painting it as.
Oh, wow.
Starting the Me Too movement early. Jesus.
That's
Lizzie
what we want.
Borden. Hashtag her too.
Who else has been murdered in the house then, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, 20 years before Mr. and Mrs. Borden were killed, in the house next door was owned by Mr. Borden's relative, Ledwig Borden. His wife Eliza had 4 kids in a row, 3 or 4 kids in a row.
Ugh.
And they think with the what is now called postpartum depression,
Mm-hmm.
she went over the edge. On the house where the Borden house is now. Is where the well to the other house was. She threw her kids in the well, drowned them, and then
All
slit
of
her
them?
throat.
Mm-hmm.
All of them.
Slit her-
Only one survived.
And slit her own throat.
The
Is that what you
oldest,
said?
the 4-year-old, I think it was the one that survived.
He was the most buoyant.
Wow.
Oh my god! And she slit her own throat.
So you have, so you have 3 other murders and a suicide right there on the same property, 20 years prior. Okay, now let's go with the other deaths that happened in the house after.
Oh,
Okay.
there's more. Oh, cool.
You wouldn't want to be the postman down that street, would you?
No.
They should call it
Yeah.
Lizzie
I've
Borden's
got
House
a
of
letter
Death.
for no, he's dead, mate. He's fucking dead.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, this is, no,
Okay.
she's shut up. If you'd
All right.
been in 10
Okay,
minutes
neat.
ago, she was...
I need to know. I need to know who else died. I'm
All
really
right,
into
there
this.
was now after the Bordens, the place was taken over by people of nefarious nature, if you know what I'm saying. And they used to run numbers out of the house and prostitution and whatever.
Yeah.
But
Like my house.
that being said, there's something else that has happened. Now, what is said that I got from another police officer who is a member of the police force on town, who is also supposedly a record of the police were chasing a home invader, or burglar or what have you, and they chased him, and he actually wound up running in the basement of the Lizzie Borden house because the guys left the basement door open, and the cops chased him in there and put up a fight, and they shot him. We have another person killed in the basement, and then there were supposedly a couple other people that had died, in the house because they were messing with the prostitutes and the people, they got whacked, so to speak. And then there was another death in the house with the McGinn family. Bought it in the late 30s, and they owned it all the way up into the 2000s. And the elderly person, Mrs. McGinn, died of cancer in the house. It's a natural death, but still a death within the house. So there's been a total body count of something between 8 or 9 people on that property.
Wow.
That's a lot, and only one of them was natural.
Wow.
So that's a lot
Correct.
of violent death for one location.
One location.
So if you got a Ouija board out one night, I mean, you wouldn't be able to keep up with all the spirits in there.
Well, you want me to tell you the story about the Ouija board at the place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, it's not just the Ouija board. There's several other things that happen in that house that's paranormally bizarre. People come in the house and they think it's, let me take a little souvenir,
Oh,
the basically the Ouija board has been stolen and returned several times
Oh.
Interesting.
with notes like saying, please make it stop.
Oh.
Cool. So there was a Ouija board in the house?
Yeah.
Cool.
So was this
The house
Ouija board
Ouija board.
from, I'm assuming not from Lizzie's time. This is just,
No,
I can't remember.
no.
When,
Someone else bought it in there.
Just
Someone
your
sold it.
average Parker Brothers Ouija board
Okay,
all right.
that you buy in.
but has
yeah,
been used
people-
in the
At
house.
Walmart.
Don't laugh, that's
I think we
where
had this
they
discussion
get
last
it.
week. I thought it was Waddington's, but I fucked it up. It's Parker then, is it?
Parker
It's
Brothers?
what?
No,
Parker
I
Brothers.
thought, I thought the same company that made Monopoly made Ouija boards, but I got it wrong.
No.
Yeah.
The people
No.
that invented the inventor of what is now known commonly as the Ouija board was invented by the Fold family. I have a friend that wrote the whole book on Ouija boards and has collection, but it's actually invented by the Fold family and was purchased by Parker Brothers in the late 50s, early 60s. But yeah. Not only has the Ouija board been stolen and returned, the coins that are left up in Mr. Borden's bedroom wind up being returned too. It's funny. Oh, let me steal all the coins off. Basically, it's like a little desk type of thing that has it's a like best way to describe it is like a little chest That's handheld. That the top's open and there's like coins in it and coins spread around. People think it's funny. Oh, let me steal the money. Yeah, and then the money gets mailed back.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
There's all kinds of
Yeah.
People keep doing things, and when they do it, all hell breaks loose in their wherever they go back to, and they, kind of like when people mail back, the black rocks back to Hawaii. There's actually a mound of black rocks behind the post office in Hawaii from people because there's a Paley's curse that relates to that. Same kind of thing that happens with the Borden house. People take things and then they wind up making their way back to the house.
I just don't think that I would ever be like, you know what I want to do? Steal shit from a house that's known for its paranormal activity and violent deaths. I'm going to steal all the stuff. That sounds like a great place to take home a little keepsake.
Yeah.
Like, what? Ugh. No thanks.
Okay, the people do weird things.
That's very true.
Well, I've gotten a phone call from the owner at like 2:30 in the morning. I've got a couple of guests because the owner caretaker lives in it's basically the barn out back. It's a representation of what the barn was, but she has an apartment up above and the gift shop is down below, and the guests come in at late hours of the night because crap is happening. Well, one particular couple were staying in the murder room where Mrs. Borden got whacked, and in that room is a dress worn by Elizabeth Montgomery in the film about Lizzie Borden, from the late 70s, early 80s, whenever the film was done. Well, they decided that the young lady was going to put on the dress, and the young gentleman decided he was going to go get Mr. Borden's top hat and wear that, and believe it or not, that's actually Mr. Borden's top hat. Anyway,
wets
and
your
he
whistle.
decided, yeah, well, but you see where this is going, right?
Oh my
They
gosh.
decided to, they thought it was fun, to do a little bit of role playing in the room. All hell broke loose.
Really?
Their phone started ringing incessantly with the actual ID number of the Lizzie Borden's number calling them.
Cool.
He answered it in a dark voice, saying, "Get out!" And, all
I just
this
got
shit.
goosebumps.
Shit
Look at
around the
me.
room. I'm not done yet. There's all kinds of shit started moving around in the room. They got physically assaulted and stuff like that. And so the owner of the place calls me at 2:30 in the morning. I got two guests, and this is what happened. I was like, well, tell the girl to put the dress back in. Tell them to say they're sorry, and they can sleep on the couch in the in the barn until daylight when I get there. And they have a recording. The owner has a recording of the guy's phone and all the messages and the numbers and stuff on his caller ID showing it. So this has been documented. And they were scared shitless.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe they learned a lesson.
Not
You
so
obviously have
sexy.
You obviously have a good relationship with the owners, Matt, because they're being like, oh shit, he's breaking loose.
Yeah.
It's 2:30 in the morning. There's only one thing we can do. We'll phone Matt Moniz. Phone Matt Moniz. He's the man. It's 2:30.
Well, I've been the one documenting most of the activity in the place.
Wow.
So
yeah.
I've had my own stuff happen there. I've got recordings of my camera being moved around, and there's all kinds of other things that we've had encounters there. I've seen full body apparitions there one day while helping out. I was helping out because we're going to have an event, and I was vacuuming the back stairway, and there was this big dark shadow standing in the hallway there. And I'm like, oh, hello, broad daylight, and what? How you doing?
Oh, pardon me.
That's ominous. Could you lift your feet, please? Thanks. I'm vacuuming. Thank you. Feet up. Oh my gosh, that's really neat.
Wow.
That's freaking crazy.
Do you
And
notice
there's something that's living in the basement that is it's, whatever it is not happy. We'll
Ooh.
just put it that way. And that's one of the things that both the co-hosts of my radio show and I, we've come to the conclusion that whatever is there has been there for a very long time.
Some bloke got shot in there, didn't he?
Yeah, well, a couple of them actually.
Yeah, so
We got one. We have the guy that was shot by the police department in there, and there was one guy that was put up against the wall by the wise guys for
The wise guys.
not paying
Yeah.
for not.
My ancestors.
You know, forget about it. You know, not for nothing. You know, but,
Yep.
hey, forget about it. You know.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, wait, yo,
Well,
man, nothing
you know,
happening here.
Yeah.
Brought down there by Vinny Boombox and Joey Bag of Donuts. You know?
Joey Bag of Donuts is my
Joey Bag
uncle.
Wow. So now this thing that lives in the basement, which was very ominous sounding, do you think, I mean, the thing I first thought of when you said that, it sounds almost like, is it a question of whether this is perhaps an inhuman entity?
That is my suspicion, and not necessarily a quote unquote, and I hate this term, demon.
Yeah.
I think this is more elemental, and this elemental is not happy that this house is where it is, because where this is located, the house is located, is on the top of a very prominent hill that overlooks Mount Hope Bay, and there's a church that's built right on this, right, basically right next to the house. And common practice back in the day was to commandeer pagan sites by building churches over them. And pagan sites usually were places where they found elementals. So, my guess is the thing's not happy.
Understandably, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. So I wonder if that has had any influence on the behavior of people in the area.
It may.
Interesting.
That's theory.
Right.
That, like I said, that's one of our theories that we put forward.
Interesting.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. I'm like so enthralled. It's very rare that I'm speechless, but I'm like so enthralled. I'm in it because I like paranormal is like my jam, paranormal and murder, so it's both of them like wrapped up together. Violent death and ghosts. I'm into it. So I'm just.
Well, there's another little thing that happens in the house, and it's mainly dealing with women, and what winds up happening, and a lot of women have found this out by going into the house, that they didn't even know they were. It affects pregnant women in a very particular way. Women that didn't even realize they were pregnant, and finding out afterwards have had the experience. So it's one of these things that, if you're pregnant, don't go in the house.
So what happened?
Are they losing their babies then?
No, but there's various forms of, I'll call it weird physical as well as mental illness symptoms that happen in the house.
I'm so into it. That's how I want to find out I'm pregnant. My pregnancy, if I ever need to take a pregnancy test, I'm just going to the Lizzie Borden house. That's how I want to know.
There you go.
That's it.
There
That's
you
my
go.
EPT.
Wow.
Well, when I went there, we didn't go in the house because it was closed, but we just wanted to see the house. Randall parked up. We walked down the street, and it's a weird colour. It's a really weird colour. It's a dark green, isn't it? Is it still dark green?
Dark hunter green, yeah.
Yeah, it was a. So look at me, the fucking green behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really fucked. I don't know who picked the fucking colours. I mean, no. But it was a really.
Well, all the colors on the house are representative of what was there. Bear in mind that back in the day, they only had a certain various shades they could do. So the house was returned to a color that it was back then. Wow. That's, back in Victorian times, they had very specific colors because their, paint chemistry was only so advanced, so they
Right.
could only do particular colors.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So
Yeah.
is there also to switch gears a little bit? So the other house, Lizzie's house, after she had moved out,
Maplecroft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you experienced any type of paranormal phenomena there?
No, only because I've only been in there once for
Okay.
merely a matter of minutes. I haven't had, because my schedule, as you know, I am into so many different things.
Yeah.
I just haven't had time to devote to really investigate the place, other than to walk through the place and go, "Oh, this room's that room's yeah, I'd love to be able to set up there," type of thing.
Yeah.
Just enough to get the lay of the land,
Yeah.
and eventually plan on something happening.
Well, if you need people to hold the recorders or a camera, I mean, Caitlin and I are.
Or just pee their pants. I'll be there.
Well, let's see if I can arrange
volunteer.
something.
I'll bring my Depends.
Wow, that's really
Always.
fascinating. Always. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Be prepared.
Oh my God.
Well, that's really awesome. That's really cool. That's
Thanks,
an interesting
Matt.
story. Thank you for sharing your
Yeah,
knowledge.
no problem.
Brilliant.
I feel like Matt, off the top of his head, just had a more well-prepared show than we've ever had.
Yeah.
So,
She's not lying there either.
yeah, I'm really.
I was gonna say, there's nothing prepared. This is stuff that's just in my head from
Wow.
doing it,
Yeah.
It's
from
still
researching it.
Yeah, it's still a lot better than our efforts, Matt.
Oh.
I try like a 10%. Put
You give it your all. 10%.
I give full 10% to every episode that we've done. You're
And you
welcome.
succeed at least up to 8.
There
Yep,
you go.
There
Look
it
at
is.
that.
Yeah, I get close. I don't, I set the bar pretty high. So
Low expectations.
That's tough.
That's our specialty. So Matt, what
Aim low
is-
and achieve.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the craziest experience you've ever had at the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast?
Oh, that's kind of difficult. Are you talking my own personal experience or what I've seen happen to others?
Both.
Both, yeah.
Okay. Probably my weirdest experience would be to watch my camera being messed around with. That watching that happen, the full body apparition and things like that. Now, what I've also watched happen, well, probably the picture being thrown across the room was probably the one that gets a lot of other people that were in there. Let me set this up. I have a friend that goes there every year for her birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she brings her family members, and she basically, has me come in and be the haunted tour guide for them. Yeah, so it was my friend Renee, her mother, her aunt, and several other cousins and this and that were in the room. A couple of other guests that were in basically a sitting parlor in the front half of the house. And they had the tour guide, Eleanor, talking about the history of the house. So there's over a dozen people in the house. I had my gear bag set beside me, getting ready to set up for the evening. So Eleanor's talking about the history and, pointing to various pictures. Here's a picture of Lizzie at this. Here's a picture of this and that. And where I was sitting in the room was basically a big wingback chair. And next to me was a small end table with a lamp and a picture on it on a little metal stand. So the tour guide said, "Hey Matt, can you hand around the picture on that nightstand?" So I was like, "Yeah." I handed it around and made the round around the room. Like I said, over a dozen people in it. So I set the picture back on the little metal stand. My friend Renee was sitting on the couch, basically diagonally from me. So basically, we're in a corner of the room. I'm sitting on one wall in the wingback chair. Renee's sitting on the settee or whatever on the end of that next. So we both have we'll call it the end table with the lamp and the picture on it. And all of a sudden, 5 minutes after I put the picture back, the picture starts rattling, and then it lifts, stand and all, about a foot and a half. It basically lifts and jumps a foot and a half between Renee and I. I'm looking at Renee. Renee's looking back at me. Everybody else is looking at Renee and I, looking at this picture hanging in the air between us. And I'm like, what the hell? And then the thing starts spinning end over end very rapidly. The metal stand that's on comes whizzing at my head, so I'm having to duck out of the way. The picture rockets into the middle of the room, stops in midair, drops to the floor, and rolls around and ends up underneath the coffee table that's in front of the settee. At which point, several people go bolting out the room. A couple of women. And why do you women do this? The standing and running in place. Forward motion. You know, they're sitting there screaming with their arms going up and down and their feet going up and down. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god. It's like, okay. Forward motion. Go.
Right. Go. I fall on the ground. My husband likes to hide in our house and scare me. He likes to jump out of places and scare me. Because my reaction is not to run, it's to fall onto the ground. That's what I do. So
there are goats that do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's like this fainting.
Yeah,
goats.
I am one of the fainting. I usually react and then hit the ground, so it's very useful in a threatening situation. I just make myself a nice victim for whoever is jumping out to scare me.
Oh my God.
But getting back to the rest of what happened, everybody's all panicking, taking off, and I'm picking up the stand and the picture and putting it back on the end table, going, "Do it again."
Yeah.
Right.
But Eleanor, who is the tour guide, is like, "Why does that keep happening?" And I was like, "Eleanor, you and I got to talk."
Right? Like you'd never mentioned this before.
Oh, and by the way, the levitating photograph situation is a repeat. It's a repeat customer.
Photographs come flying off the wall at a particular tour guide. Poor Ben. He's a nice guy. I don't understand why, but he used to stand in the middle of the room, and I actually had the photograph of the coat of arms for the Bordens is on one wall, and every time he would come into the room, well, not every time, but a majority of the times it would come flying off the wall and hit him on the back. So he got to the point of, like, when he comes into the room to do the tour, he walks up to the wall and puts it back to it so it can't come flying at him anymore.
Nice.
Prepared.
Smart guy.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I can regale you with a number of other different stories. I watched the co-host of my show. There was a young kid that was being physically, I'll call it abused when we had a dozen other people in the room. It kept, doing something to the kid, and the kid was getting, scared. So my co-host Tim's like, you're such a coward. And he started using all of these other words, and he's like, I'll send you, I'll let you, I won't even fight back. Next thing I know, I watch him get thrown up against the wall and the snot beat out of him.
Oh my God.
In front of everybody else. They all saw it.
Beat up by nothing.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago, don't pick a fight with something you can't swing back at.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not a fair fight.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy cool.
Wow.
And do people... Sorry, Caitlin, go on.
No, I got nothing. Keep going. Go ahead.
When people stay there, Matt, at the bed and breakfast, do they deliberately choose, because there's obviously a lot of bedrooms, do they say, right, I'll have the Lizzie Borden bedroom? Is that the most popular?
Yeah, you can actually sleep in Lizzie's actual bedroom. You can sleep in her sister Emma's bedroom, which is off of it. Yeah, and you could sleep in the murder room, which is known as the John Morse room, which was the uncle, where Mrs. Borden was murdered. You can sleep in Mr. and Mrs. Borden's bedroom, and you can sleep in the third floor. There are 3 bedrooms upstairs too.
Wow.
Certain rooms are not available during certain times of the year, like obviously during the anniversary of the murder, they auction off the murder room where Mrs. Borden was killed for that anniversary. They auction the room off. I think on average, the winning bid usually winds up being over $2,000.
Oh, fucking hell!
Okay, so is there any? What happens on the anniversary? Anything?
Not necessarily, no. But it's just the idea that you're able to get the room for that particular day.
Oh, okay, so
they should stick a bed in the basement, shouldn't they?
Ugh.
What is wrong with you?
Go for $20. $20. Do I 25?
Scary.
Oh my god.
Well, it's actually an eBay auction that it goes every year.
Wow. That's crazy.
And
That's
I
insane.
think the auction's actually still open for this year. I don't think it's been closed
good.
yet. So if you want to put in a bid, go ahead.
Place a bid.
Nope. That's
Nope.
scary.
Caitlin's a nope.
Nope. I'll
I'll
go,
take
but I'm a nope on like
I
trying
think
to make
I
it
would,
worse.
I would stay in Lizzie's room if I had to choose any
Lizzie's
room. I
room.
would choose Lizzie's room.
I
yeah.
want if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna stay in the murder room because I feel
no.
like that's
No.
I actually like the murder room. It's one of the best rooms, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
that's it.
One of the largest. It's the
Right.
most private because all of the other bedrooms, they're all. Mr. Borden, being the cheap tightwad that he was, converted this basically as a two-story tenement into a single family.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, some of the bedrooms are actually like parlors and kitchens and whatever that
okay.
are tied
Wow.
together by doorways. So you can open up your door into somebody else's bedroom type
Oh.
of thing.
Fun.
Yeah, but during evenings, the
Right.
property the owner basically, she comes in, she makes sure that certain doors are shut and secured, so you don't have somebody just walking into your bedroom type of thing. But that's what I'm saying. The Morse bedroom where Mrs. Borden was killed, there's no other entrance into it that you can really get to, so it's the only private bedroom.
Is there any bedroom that tends to have more activity than another?
Yes. The third floor, what's known as the chimney room.
Really?
Upstairs. And that is active with the children. To the point that they put a toy box in there with toys. And I've had this happen on a number of occasions. You put, all the toys in the toy box, which is basically a little chest.
Mm-hmm.
You shut the door. You come back a couple hours later, and the box is open, and the toys are back out on the floor.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. You'd be laying on the bed in there, and you'll find that these little footsteps on the bed with you.
Cute.
No.
You just lost Caitlin.
Kid ghosts are the worst. It's just because kid deaths are the worst. So like.
Are you familiar with Zach Baggins?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yes, I call him the ghost bro.
Ghost Adventures?
Yes, I call
The
him
guy
ghost
with the
bro.
guns. He's got the big guns.
Yeah. I'm actually in that Ghost Adventures episode.
Are you?
Yes. Yeah. We filmed in the basement with them,
Yes.
but they got the drawer to the nightstand opening up in that room. That's when. Yep. So you didn't recognize me downstairs in the basement with him with the coffin that's in there?
I did.
That's me.
You know what's funny, Matt, is I didn't know you were on that episode, and I watched it probably a couple of months ago. Like it was just a rerun, and I was watching it, and I was like, "What the hell, Matt?" And so I paused the screen and took a picture of it, sent it to Lee. Like,
You did.
Matt
you
was
did.
on Ghost Adventures. Like I had no clue. It was crazy.
Binge watched Ghost Adventures so quickly because for some reason this past year I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna watch every episode of all 18 seasons, so it's all kind of a blur.
Yeah.
But now I'm gonna go back and find you.
Yeah.
Okay, now what's interesting is that they didn't. If you watch that episode, you know how before when they're locked down and they show them being unlocked from the facility. If you watch that episode, their reveal goes from them being in the house to them back in Las Vegas reviewing it. You don't see them getting unlocked and removed from the house. You know why?
Why?
The only place that scared them out.
Ooh,
Stop, really?
Oh.
Yeah, they got violently ill. There's all kinds of things, and they basically called it at 3 o'clock in the 4 something in the morning. Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you pay attention, that's one of the only places that they didn't do their we're being released and let out of the place. No, they ran out screaming. They ran out screaming like little girls.
That's funny.
That's incredible.
Does he? You know, well, you know him, Matt. But I mean, because I've got a couple of series down there of it, but he always tries to sort of antagonise the ghosts a little bit, doesn't he?
Mm.
But
So
Yep,
was he
and
like that?
he
Was
paid for it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, what was that? His same. You know.
Yeah, some places you can do that.
Yeah.
Lizzie's, I
So he
don't
did that.
recommend it.
He carried that over in the Lizzie Borden house. He was quite threatening.
Yes,
That's
Yeah.
his method.
not a place to do
Yeah.
that in. Not
Yeah.
a place to do
His
that.
method is.
Yeah.
he's gotten better, I think, as the season's gone on. He's
Yes.
kind of learned, like, hey, maybe that's not such a great tactic.
Well, he had that
He's-
whole. He bought the house. Did you see the demon
Yes,
house
the demon
thing?
house.
And all
Yep,
that
and then
kind of crap.
leveled it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
It's
he got
crazy.
all fucked up from that shit. So,
yeah.
whoop. Well, cool.
Wow.
I have no idea how long we've been talking because I'm super enthralled in all of this.
No.
About
But
an hour.
About an hour, I think.
I
About an hour,
feel
yeah.
like we're coming to the point where 2 people are listening. So I feel
Well,
like
well past
me and
12
Lynn.
minutes, so.
That's me
yes,
and Lynn.
we're past 12. We've made it to a whole 37. So I want to say thank you to Matt, especially
thank you,
Matt.
for
Not a problem.
being
Thank you, Matt.
No worries.
our first special guest. And probably the only one we'll ever have.
No.
Make the most of it. Yeah.
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 This is super interesting. This is actually like really super interesting to me. I'm pumped that it's our first paranormal thing that we've done, and we had somebody who
Yes.
actually has experience in it, which is makes
telling
it
you.
better.
Oh my God.
And I'm coming for you because we're definitely gonna. Lynn and I are coming to go do the whole house, and
Yeah. I think we'll
wanna-
have to, if we
Sure.
do, if we're able to do that, I think we should do a follow-up episode.
where we can talk about.
I recommend
you're
a
up
good
for it,
RV
Matt.
you can stay at, Caitlin.
Well, they,
Only if I can
Yeah,
kick
I'll
in
let
his
you borrow
kitchen door
Lee's
at
gimp
6:30 in the
suit.
morning. Yeah. Oh, the gimp suit. I'm sure.
No.
I'm sure it'll
It's-
fit me.
It's, still on it's actually still on the chair in the corner of the RV. I don't know if you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it needs ironing. It needs ironing, but yeah.
Oh my God! Can you iron a gimp suit? Not sure. I think they melt.
I think it would melt. Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Not while you're still wearing it. That's not advisable.
It's true.
well,
He
don't
had to
feel bad.
unzip-
When I picked it up after he left it, I had to clean all of that peanut butter off the nipples.
The thing is, I was trying to entice the small animals to come in and lick it off, but they were.
Yeah, yeah. So
Snow
that's why
White.
those squirrels were a little nutty.
Yep.
That was
Lee's new nickname,
Snow White. Just
Yeah.
all the woodland creatures come to lick peanut butter off your gimp suit nipples. I can't handle it. So that's how we're gonna end this. So thanks everyone for listening
cool.
to us talk about nonsense. Thanks again to Matt for joining us.
Thank you.
Not a worry.
Thanks, Matt.
And all the same crap
No
we say
worries.
at the end of every episode. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, do all the crap.
Tell your doctor. Tell your doctor.
Tell your doctor, share it with your doctor, physician, psychiatrist, therapist.
Play Knockdown Ginger and don't run
Play-
away. Tell them about the show.
Yeah, knock down Ginger, but don't run.
Have
Just-
you heard of that, Matt? Knockdown Ginger?
Heard of it, not sure what it means.
It's Ding Dong Ditch.
For
Okay.
fucking British people, because they can't call anything literal. It has to be the stupidest fucking name for a game that I can't.
we-
Don't get me started. I'm mad about it. I don't.
We had a rich discussion last week, Matt, and Caitlin mentioned Ding Dong Ditch, and I thought it was some secret sordid sex game that she plays in the bedroom, but it wasn't. It's where kids don't look at me like that, Caitlin. It's where kids
You don't
knock
know
on
what
the
I do
door
in
and
my
basically
bedroom.
piss off out of it. And I said, "Oh, that we play that. It's called Knockdown Ginger." And I don't know the origins of the name. Knockdown Ginger.
Well, it's fucking stupid.
I didn't invent the fucking name.
So, anyways,
Yeah.
thanks for listening. Until next time, when we're talking about something that I don't know, because I'm very unsure of what our episode order is going to be right now. So, thanks again for listening. Thanks again to everything for all that crap. I'm going to just keep rambling, and then I'm going to tell you guys to go fuck yourselves. Have a nice day.
Hey!
Thank you.
Go fuck yourself. Isn't there an app for that called Fumble?